If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. All you need in this life is ignorance and confidence, and then success is sure. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience, this is the ideal life. Part of the secret of a success in life is to eat what you like and let the food fight it out inside. Humor is mankind's greatest blessing. A man is never more truthful than when he acknowledges himself a liar. Life would be infinitely happier if we could only be born at the age of 80 and gradually approach 18. When we remember we are all mad, the mysteries disappear and life stands explained. When people do not respect us, we are sharply offended, yet in his private heart no man much respects himself. If the world comes to an end, I want to be in Cincinnati. Everything comes there 10 years later. Wrinkles should merely indicate where smiles have been. Be careless in your dress if you must, but keep a tidy soul. If you hold a cat by the tail, you learn things you cannot learn any other way. I have never taken any exercise, except sleeping and resting, and I never intend to take any. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first.
Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured.
The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Why is it that we rejoice at a birth and grieve at a funeral? It is because we are not the person involved. The secret source of humor is not joy but sorrow. There is no humor in heaven. When your friends begin to flatter you on how young you look, it's a sure sign you're getting old. It is better to deserve honors and not have them than to have them and not deserve them. The finest clothing made is a person's own skin, but, of course, society demands something more than this. She was not quite what you would call refined. She was not quite what you would call unrefined. She was the kind of person that keeps a parrot. Drag your thoughts away from your troubles, by the ears, by the heels, or any other way you can manage it. It is curious that physical courage should be so common in the world and moral courage so rare. The man who does not read good books has no advantage over the man who cannot read them. Training is everything. The peach was once a bitter almond, cauliflower is nothing but cabbage with a college education. I have never taken any exercise, except sleeping and resting, and I never intend to take any. Noise proves nothing. Often a hen who has merely laid an egg cackles as if she laid an asteroid. Under certain circumstances, urgent circumstances, desperate circumstances, profanity provides a relief denied even to prayer. When your friends begin to flatter you on how young you look, it's a sure sign you're getting old. It is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. There are basically 2 types of people. People who accomplish things, and people who claim to have accomplished things. The first group is less crowded. In Huckleberry Finn, I have drawn Tom Blankenship exactly as he was. He was ignorant, unwashed, insufficiently fed, but he had as good a heart as ever any boy had. As an example to others, and not that I care for moderation myself, it has always been my rule never to smoke when asleep, and never to refrain from smoking when awake. I have been complimented many times and they always embarrass me. I always feel that they have not said enough. There are people who can do all fine and heroic things but one, keep from telling their happiness to the unhappy. Humor must not professedly teach and it must not professedly preach, but it must do both if it would live forever. Let us make a special effort to stop communicating with each other, so we can have some conversation. There are several good protections against temptation, but the surest is cowardice. The main difference between a cat and a lie is that a cat only has 9 lives.
Soap and education are not as sudden as a massacre, but they are more deadly in the long run. Sometimes too much to drink is barely enough.
The more things are forbidden, the more popular they become. What a wee little part of a person's life are his acts and his words. His real life is led in his head, and is known to none but himself. It is just like man's vanity and impertinence to call an animal dumb because it is dumb to his dull perceptions. Let us not be too particular. It is better to have old second-hand diamonds than none at all. Prosperity is the best protector of principle.